Hello everyone, this is Raven here with another gameplay battle replay of the Wood Elves versus the Warriors of Chaos. So I brought a pretty fun build today. I like to bring a pretty infantry heavy Wood Elf army sometime, and try and go a little bit skimpy on the trees and try and focus more on just letting my Wood Elf infantry dominate the day with their archers or high class units. So over here in my front line, you can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different units of the Eternal Guard with shields, and then the 2 Wildwood Rangers in the front, and then 2 units of Glade Guard with Starfire shafts. So I was counting on very heavy armor-piercing damage because you really never know what's going to be coming up against you with the Warriors of Chaos. I could go either just regular Chaos Warriors, or maybe Chosen with their heavy shields and heavy armor, or they could go Forsaken. So over here you can see Treekin, 2 units of them, Durthu, a Treeman, and a Spellsinger with the Lore of Life, with Blessing of the Ancients, Earth Bloom, and Life Bloom, just for some good healing against the Tides of Chaos. Over here, keep my blobs healthy and in the fight longer. So the Treemen, I really just brought them just in case he did bring Forsaken, and I'd try and soak up as much damage as I could against them, and try and have my Elves fight it out with more heavily armored and less armor damage dealing units from the Chaos forces. So over here, you can take a look at my opponent's army. So he has the Chaos Knight with lances over here, and another Chaos Knight with lances over here on the flanks, hoping to do some really, really good charge damage with them. You can see 42 weapon strength, but an 80 bonus on the charge. That is absolutely devastating, especially with that 120 armor and the shielding as well to keep them safe from the missile fire from the Wood Elves. In the front line, you can see 3 units of Chaos Marauders. Now with these guys, with their pretty decent weapon strength but very good melee attack, they'll be able to do quite good work even against my Eternal Guard with shields, with their higher melee defense on the sides. Chaos Warriors, so this is kind of what I was expecting over here, just heavily armored units that I'd be able to do good work against with my armor piercing damage. And over here, a Chaos Warrior with halberds trying to help protect against any flanking Wood Elf cavalry or any flying units that I might have brought. And he brought a Chaos Pharaoh Manticore, and it's typically a pretty safe option to bring a flying unit as Chaos against the Wood Elves. Make sure they're not going to be doing any funny business with a kiting army. But sadly, if I had brought a lot more flying units, this unit would have been punished quite hard, and he would have been out 1,000 resources right out of the gate. And over here you can see Dragon Ogres and Kholek himself, the Suneater, over here being hot and heavy, ready to get in here, start doing some smacking with this massive hammer. What an absolutely gorgeous model. And in the center of his army, a Hell Cannon. And I love this pick because it's going to do some initial damage against my army, and they're going to be able to start whittling away at my forces quite early on, while I still have to run to him rather instead of him having to run to me. So this is a good pick on my opponent. Over here you can see that he's actually going to get a pretty good shot off, immediately killing 3 units, but doing some good HP damage, already doing 600 HP right off the bat. So I start saying, nope, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and spread out everything as thin as possible and start trying to get wide lines to try and minimize the damage I take from all these pot shots from the Hell Cannon as my lines approach. And as you can see over here, these units of Chaos Knights become hidden and unhidden quite rapidly as they're running through the trees. So I understand that they're coming, and I'm trying to prepare for that. I'm trying to get as much damage off with these Glade Guard with Starfire shafts as possible, and start pre-positioning some Eternal Guard with shields to try and soak up some of the charges from these Chaos Knights. But he pulls them back, realizing that I'm going to be trying to take those charge with the Charge of Friends versus Large that the Eternal Guards have, and start lining them up with these armor-piercing missiles from the Wood Elves. Over here you can see the front line clashes going down, and some Hellfire cannon shots going into the background over here. So I'm going to have my Treeman in here doing some really good work against these lightly armored Chaos Marauders, and in the back he's going to start sticking his Chaos Pharaoh Manticore against these these Glade Guard over here, and he's going to start doing some really good damage, tearing them apart with their 15 armor. And it's very, very high weapon strength, especially with that terror mechanic. It's absolutely going to terrify these units and shred them apart as it does so. In the front here, you can see that the terror kicks in from my own terror-causing units, Durthu and the Treeman over here, terrifying these poor Chaos Marauders. They just don't want to be in the fight any longer than they have to be. Over here, these Chaos Warriors engage my Eternal Guard with the shields, and these Chaos Knights with lances came in here and just did an absolutely brutal charge in the back over here. And we'll take a look at the front line again. So I start trying to pull back my Eternal Guard with shields, trying to save these archers, because I have to have them do as much damage as possible for me. So I start trying to run them forward so I can start doing some damage against these Chaos Knights, then realize that's probably not a good idea. And I start trying to pull them back, but then they get terrified and they start routing from the field, which is very unfortunate for me. So I start pulling these other Glade Guard forward to try and be in the proximity of my army for any support that they can offer, and they're able to keep shooting as they run forward against Kholek the Suneater over here. And we have another unit of Eternal Guard over here in the forest, just getting absolutely swamped by all these Chaos Warriors, but I get a nice rear and flanking charge with these Wildwood Rangers with their extremely high weapon damage of 40 and 32 armor piercing damage. They're no joke. They're going to be able to get in here and be able to do some really good damage, especially because the mass of the forces they're fighting right now are Chaos Warriors with halberds, which don't do as well as the Chaos Warriors would with their shielding and better melee defense. Over here, you can see that I pulled Durthu in. So thankfully, even though these Chaos Warriors with halberds do extra damage against large units and do have very good armor-piercing damage. Overall, though, with their leadership being so low and Durthu causing terror, they're immediately going to rout, even with the support of their their lord nearby. And so I immediately realized I was going to pull him into the fight and try and support the main fight and get rid of these knights, but I'm like, if I could just get rid of Durthu, I can start causing even more panic amongst the lines with my terror and fear-causing units. And I start pulling in my other tree man and my treekin over here to start trying to work down these knights, but he pulls them away and tries to get rid of these Eternal Guard in the back that came back from routing. And the Hell Cannon over here still just doing absolutely magnificent work against my lines over here, whittling down these treekin and my tree man with each shot. I believe another shot comes off, but he's going to miss it pretty sadly, and it's just going to zoom right by all my units, but does cause a leadership debuff because they were shot and came within that proximity. So over here, he leaves these units alone and doesn't actually finish the job and lets them come back from routing, and pretty soon I'm going to start trying to group up all my forces and try and finish the job that I started. Over here, I just nailed this Chaos Pharaoh Manticore in the face with that shot that the Durthu has, which is the Lamentation of Despair. So I shot him right in the face with all those magic missiles, which is pretty much a mini arrow of Kronos, but he can shoot it from any range that's close by without getting blocked out. Over here, the cowardly Kholek the Suneater just decides to run away. He can't deal with the mighty Durthu in here, just laying the absolute Pimp and smacking down with this mighty sword that he has, actually absolutely looking badass. And I just start moving him straight through the lines. I'm going to start pulling him over here to help reinforce my forces that I started rallying, and I start pulling this tree man in here against these Chaos Knights. I really need them gone. I go ahead and put a heal on my Spellsinger with the Lore of Life because it's important that she stays in the fight right now, because if I can get some more Winds of Magic, she's going to be able to survive for a longer duration, and probably in the end game when I start having more clumped up units, be able to do some more meaty heals. Over here I try and brace for as best as I can over here, try and put these Eternal Guard in as thick of a possible formation as I possibly could, but they still just get ran over by this massive charge bonus of these Chaos Knights with lances, and they pull out as they should. Psycho charging is a fair move, and I commend my opponent for being so very good with his micro. But over here you can see that all these units are going to start clumping up pretty hard and trying to take out my Treekin with their extremely high armor, and these Dragon Ogres are going to do some pretty considerable damage against my Treekin, because they do have that 100 weapon damage with armor piercing damage and do get a bonus versus large. So I start surveying the battlefield and I figure out what do I have to do to win this. So I start throwing everything in the kitchen sink over here against these Chaos Knights with lances, because they've just been an absolute pain in my ass this entire game. So over here you can see that I pull my Wildwood Rangers in and I start marching Durthu straight after Kholek, who's coming in here to support his Hell Cannon, because he realizes his Hell Cannon is doing quite a lot of work, especially if he can get some good shots in from distance against my Treemen because of its magical causing damage, excuse me, so it's able to pierce through that 20% physical resistance that all my Treemen and Tree can have. Oh, here the Lamentation of Dispel going off, get a couple shots off on these Chaos Marauders, but I really wanted it to try and home in on Kholek the Suneater, but it spreads out over distance, so it's better, the shorter the range possible to use it on, the better. Over here I just try and get off as broad a Flock of Doom as possible, trying to catch these units as they come out of it. Catch Kholek, just do a little bit of damage, and catch these Hell Cannon as it's just over here fighting my Wildwood Rangers, who do rout, and these unit of Chaos Marauders come in and start routing themselves. So over here in my front line, you can see that really all I have left is my Treemen. I'm losing micro on all my units as they keep routing, because I'm trying to keep the main fight over here with Durthu, trying to keep him as healthy and lively as possible, trying to micro him to the best of my abilities. If I can be able to finish this job against Kholek the Suneater, that's just going to do so much good work for me. Right there, a nice side swipe action, just absolutely gutting the Sun Eater right here. And the mighty Dragon Ogre Shaggoth has fallen. And over here, his units are absolutely just going to get terrified, because as soon as a Lord dies, terror mechanics and fear mechanics start going into like hyperdrive. They just start doing so much more work for you in the field than they normally would. So units like this Dragon Ogre causing fear would be much more effective against my Wildwood Rangers because of that penalty that they would have taken due to the leader dying. So as you can see over here, let's take a look at this leadership of 14, 17, kind of wavering and depending, but you can see Lord recently died, minus 16 penalty to that leadership. So any terror can immediately start taking effect. Over here you can see Route C's Chaos Warriors, who were about to be supported by these rallied Dragon Ogres and the rear charging of this Chaos Knight with Lances, and these other Warriors of Chaos coming in here to start supporting as well. So this tree man in here is going to be doing some really good work, and it's probably going to be able to route at least another unit, perhaps before being routed itself. And then over here I start pulling Durthu back in. I'm like, please Durthu, run faster. These little tree legs just aren't doing enough work for him. He does have that 36 move speed, which is better than the average infantry unit, but it's just not quick enough. I need him in here fast as possible. These Treekin over here have 4 leadership. I'm afraid if I pull them into a fight with their only 2 models and 934 HP, they're just immediately going to get routed, especially because of the high damage of these Dragon Ogres still on play on the field. And so as you can see, Durthu has his work cut out for him. 2 Chaos Warriors, 2 Chaos Knights with Lances, and Dragon Ogres over here. So this is just absolutely hardy. This is a very good force against my poor Durthu, and he's pulling in 3 more units of infantry over here against Durthu. As you can see, my allied troop count is 15 to 190 units, and one of that 15 is this routing treeman. Over here in the back you can see another routing unit, the Treekin. And then you can see these unit of Wildwood Rangers in the back. I lost micro on them completely because I'm just pulling Durthu in as fast as possible, and he actually just routes these Chaos Knights with Lances and these Dragon Ogres just due to the sheer proximity of him. He's such a healthy unit right now at 2,800 HP, and he's able to terrify all these units. So I immediately start trying to pull him in on these Chaos Knights with Lances, try and finish them off, because as you can see, he's trying to regroup his forces so he can take the main of the charge against these really thick units of Chaos Marauders, while his Chaos Warriors with halberds in the back are going to be able to start doing some really good work. So I start pulling in my Durthu while these Dragon Ogres are coming in for a rear charge and a flank charge coming in from these Chaos Knights with Lances. I go ahead and put down another Flock of Doom, trying to do as much damage against these Chaos Marauders and Warriors of Chaos, doing as much damage against them as possible before they get into the fight. So hopefully the terror can kick in. There goes one. Friendly routing is going to go ahead and route this unit over here pretty soon, and it's going to route this one too, and then terror is going to start kicking in as well, especially after he gets any good shots off. Just like that, goes ahead and routes this unit, shatters that one, and then mass routing is going to go ahead and start ensuing all across these lines. So you can see the terror kicking in, but then he comes in with this really healthy Chaos Knight with Lances, and Durthu starts kind of wavering. He's not quite sure if he's going to win this fight or not. You can see his leadership just took 12, minus 12 right there, minus 15 right there. His HP is dropping rapidly, and he's just looking more and more concerned, but the terror kicks in on all the units, and finally a mass rout ensues because he has no more units that are coming back from routing. All of them happen to be routing at the same time, and that ended the game. I believe if he had a little bit more time, these Chaos Warriors right here probably could have turned around and came back into the fight, and these units of Chaos Knights with Lances and Dragon Ogres could have potentially come back from routing. But over here in the back you can see that my treeman actually had returned. He had rallied, and I was pulling him into the fight as fast as possible. I was going to try and intercept these Dragon Ogres right here with him in the woods, and then pull him into the fight, and perhaps retreat Durthu in here, and I'd have the double treeman smackdown to lay against my opponent over here. But very good game to my opponent over here, Don Cordis. Very good match to you. Hopefully I see you again on the ladder, and we'll have some more good fights. Over here, let's take a look at these kills. 142 kills on these Wildwood Rangers. So absolutely able to lay the smackdown on any Chaos Marauders and Chaos Warriors with halberds that they are able to come across. 81 kills over here with these other Wildwood Rangers, so they had a little bit more of a tight engagement. I think probably just engaged 1 or 2 units, but then were eventually wiped out by the Chaos Knights with Lances, who they would have excelled against if they were in the forest, because they do get a charge bonus versus large, and get another bonus 8 damage versus large units. So they would have done quite well, but as they were exposed in the fields and being lanced down by these Chaos Knights, they are absolutely shredded apart. But not before they were able to do good work, as this unit did gain 3 chevrons. Over here, my Glade Guard with Starfire Chefs absolutely did not perform whatsoever. They did nothing for me this game. 5 kills and 9 kills. They did some good HP damage against large targets like Kholek and these Chaos Knights with Lances, but overall, I just wasn't able to protect him. I didn't have the lines for it. I had to go full-on front engagement against these units for the Warrior of Chaos. But thankfully, Durthu, just being an absolute pimp, being able to lay the smackdown, is what eventually won the day for me. So thank God for him. Alright, so as always, guys, if you like what you saw, go ahead and give me a big thumbs up. Comment in the comment section down below if you'd like to criticize me on what you'd like to see for any unit compositions or armies or factions fighting against each other. Go ahead and let me know. And subscribe if you'd like to see more. And as always, guys, I'll catch y'all later.